welcome back to Special Interests with Bob and Donna, Bob Banfelder and Donna D'Erasmo. Just so that you know who we are, I am a retired educator, 32 years with the New York City Board of Education, and Robert here is an award-winning crime thriller novelist and outdoors writer. He's written many articles on the outdoors because we love fishing, and Bob is an avid hunter. He is a member of the Outdoor Writers Association of America, the New York State Outdoor Writers Association of America, and we are both members of the Trumansburg Fish and Game Club, a bunch of lovely people. And Bob is a new member of the Newfield Rod and Gun Club, and both clubs are in central New York, where we get to vacation once in a while in the beautiful countryside. He is also a recipient of the Lifetime Achievement Award for his nonfiction and fiction, and you can see his fiction and nonfiction books on Amazon. They are all available in paperback, and only one handbook on writing and getting published is not in an ebook format. Everything else is. So his books on hunting and fishing are on paperback and ebook, as well as his crime thriller novels.
Okay, you had mentioned Central New York. Tell them where we are presently.
Well, right now we are on Eastern Long Island. We're at the spearhead of the North and South Fork in a town called Riverhead. And we are very lucky to be on the Peconic River. And that's where we do our boating, and we're not sharing our spots, correct? We catch some beautiful fish, and we have some beautiful dinners with it. So Bob is going to continue with his cooking show. The first one we did a couple of days ago, and he was cooking a Chateaubriand using the reverse searing method, and you can see that on YouTube. And he went over some very interesting gadgets in that video. So it's a rather long one, but it's well worth it if you are into cooking. And today he's going to focus on a part of that, which is making the Mirepoix and a brown sauce, which we used on the Chateaubriand, which was delicious, by the way. And we did have company. Our friends Tom and Darla came over, and it was a fun evening.
And we got a message back after,
they said delish.
Dinner.
They delish.
It was.
Okay, so I'm going to be behind the camera, so we'll be back in a jiff.
What I covered last time was the first chapter of the novel, and all I'll say at this point, there's been new developments in a serial killer case that I've been following quite a bit since inception, and I'll point out that I'll be covering in depth all the players in Suffolk County law enforcement, Manorville, and I'd like you to follow that down the pike. Probably be a year and a half before I finish. It's going to be a blockbuster, or so says Bob Banfelder.
Terrific.
Okay.
What's the draft title of the story?
I had a tentative title that I mentioned last time. I'm not going to reiterate because I've changed the title, and I'll probably keep changing it. When I'm done, then I can stand back from it and say the perfect title will be. So, without further ado, these are the vegetables, the three vegetables that we started with for our Mirepoix stock, not the brown sauce yet. Then we'll be going into step 2 to make our Mirepoix / brown sauce, if you will. So you see here we have some onions that I'll be cutting up, some carrots, and some celery, and we'll talk about proportions and all that. Again, I mentioned it in the show last time, but we'll be looking at that. If you remember last time, I had used this strainer which was a strain because it's just too small for what we'll be doing here. So I had mentioned also that I had this funnel, this conical shaped instrument here, great tool, fine mesh chinois, aka a China cap. And this is going to make life a lot simpler. I had also mentioned, remember we looked at a 4-quart pot that I was working with, which was okay for a small amount, but I'm going to be doubling the amount. This is working with double the amount. This is an 8-quart pot, stock pot.
We just picked that up yesterday.
We just picked this up yesterday.
Yeah.
This came in a few days ago. And I had mentioned about doing it in this 10 quart, well, if this is 8, this is like 10 quart aluminum. But you really don't want to do that because if you remember, we took the tomato paste and we rubbed it with olive oil all over these bones. The bones being beef neck bones and veal shanks. And being that we're dealing with an acidic, the tomatoes, you really don't want to cook anything in aluminum. Hence, we have the stainless steel pot here, which is going to work out fine.
So you roasted beef neck bones and veal shank for about an hour.
45 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
And just came out fine. And when I had did the bones the time before with just 8 hours, all the meat came off the bone. There wasn't a shred of meat on a bone, and that's what you want. That you want that flavor too.
So we need these roasted bones for the brown sauce. It's going to give it the color.
Right, into step 2.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
It'll give it very nice flavor. What we will use this pot for when we're done with our 8-quart, I'll simply put the chinois on top here, and then we'll pour the liquid in here.
And you'll show the folks that.
Right. The bones will come out of here, of course. You know, we'll be taking out the bones and we'll be taking out the bay leaves, a couple of bay leaves, and we'll be taking out the sprigs, if you will, the stems. Okay, most of this will be dissolved. So, rather than have you glued to your set just watching me chop, we'll come back in a moment after I do most of the chopping. Okay? It's time. We have the olive oil that I mentioned. I'll just put in a tablespoon or whatever. And use your own discretion. Look up some of the other recipes for Chateaubriand, well, specifically the Mirepoix / brown sauce. And you're not really limited to, you know, what I'm doing here. Okay, so the next time we come back, everything will be in a stock pot from these boards and from the board over here. And let's see what else I can talk about here. Have a sip of coffee. It is after 12 o'clock, so I could have one. Let's go back to this sign here, Donna. This plaque here. I tried cooking with wine, but after 4 glasses, I forgot why I was in the kitchen.
It's a little early for wine.
It's a little, well, not really.
But what do they say?
I will be cooking and I will be watching this. I will be simmering this for many hours. And I do cook. I do drink wine when I cook, so I'm going to go very slow. So I'm going to finish my coffee and get started on this. And when we come back, you will see the stock simmering. Okay, again, after everything is in here, we cover it with water just up to that level. And as it evaporates, we add cold water to it, and we'll just keep going. So that's about it for now. We'll be back. This is our brown sauce after 8.5 hours. Note that we're just simmering it. And this is what our brown sauce looks like 12 hours later. Okay, we are back in a final stretch. It's been 15.5 hours that we've been cooking our brown sauce, and I'm going to shut this off.
Smells delicious.
Give it a little, you can see the liquid is like right up to the top. We'll get those stems out and bones out in a minute, and the bay leaf, anything that would really clog up the works. Okay, I'm going to transfer the pot over to this burner. Make sure this is off. And what I did before I really got going with this, second time I made this, is I turned on all my burners and I wanted to see which one had the lowest flame, and it was the right front, because I didn't want this thing bubbling. Remember, we wanted it to simmer. And as a matter of fact, after 8 hours, I removed the cover and I left the cover off because it was getting too hot to the point where it would start to bubble. So we didn't want that. We wanted to simmer. I removed the cover. Only one time did I add a little bit of water where it went down, and I think we're at a point now. Remember on the last show that we did, the meat was off the bones in 8 hours. Well, the meat is really off the bones this time around.
I think the bones are naked, honey.
Okay, so we're going to take a look at, if I don't get too messy here, some of the bones here. I just want to show it nice and clean. Okay, see there's no meat on the bones. Let me find another one. And while we're here, we got a piece of stem there.
There's another one.
Oh, the bones. Remember, these were the bones, the neck bones, beef neck bones, and the veal shanks. Here we go. And what we'll pull out, I'll pull out the other bones off camera here, and we'll wait for this to cool, and then we'll come back and we'll go to the next step. Okay? So hang in there. Okay, so cooled off somewhat, and you can see that we have all the bones out. Hopefully, might be a little piece of neck bone in there or something, but we'll see in a moment. You can see all the bones are clean. What you see clinging to the bone is some of the vegetables. Here's our bay leaf. Pulled out a couple of bay leaves, the stems from our
Probably the rosemary.
rosemary, and oh, a sprig for the thyme too.
Smells good.
So, what we're going to do now, let's give credit where credit is due. David Burke, another Burke, just focusing on that handle, because I want to talk about this stock pot, this 8-quart stock pot. worked out very nicely. And Donna, you want to explain the bottom of this? You said it's a double.
It's a double clad, so it heats up evenly, heats the food up evenly. Very nice.
No burning on the
And
bottom.
no
You see,
burning.
this is very clean. So what we're going to do now is to take this over here to the sink. In this big aluminum pot, remember we're not using aluminum. I'm just using the chinois, the funnel, to get the liquid out of here. So I'm going to pour this in. And here we go. Let's see.
Nice and brown.
Yeah, this is going to be darker. We'll do the comparison of the last batch to this. Let that go
Put a
down.
little bit at a time, or do you pour the whole thing in?
Well, then we're going to be above the...
Yeah,
No.
above the funnel, a little bit more.
no, but that's okay, I'm realizing.
Okay.
Oh, this is much better than that other strainer, Donna, that I said was there forever.
And you can see
And
the
look
bottom
at the
of
bottom,
the pot.
nice and
Very
clean,
nice.
no burning
Nice pot.
or anything like that.
And you probably can hear it dripping through the chinois.
It's a little warm here. But you don't want to wait till the last moment. It's like your engine oil in the vehicle. You want to get that oil a little bit hot so it drains, or hot so it drains in. That's what we're dealing with here. Maybe the camera can focus in on this, Donna. You can get right in there. And it's all dripping, making life very easy. Okay, so we'll let this drain, and I'll help it along. And then I'm going to get some ice cube trays when this really cools down. Okay, so I'll play with that a little bit till all the liquid has drained.
And then are
And
you
we'll
going
come back.
and then are you going to mash what's in there a little bit to take the liquid out of the vegetables and the meat? Do you do that?
You know what I was thinking of this? Funny you should mention that. We're getting a pizza later on, and what we're going to do, this meat is going to be like delicious. So I'm going to sprinkle. We always get pizza with sausage, so maybe we'll get a plain pizza and I'm going to sprinkle some of this
Some of
meat
the
over
meat,
it.
yeah,
But
smells
we don't
delicious.
waste anything in this house. We really don't.
If we had a dog, the dog would be very happy with those bones.
Okay. So this is twice. I'm going to have twice the amount that I had on the 4-quart pot that I used. So we'll probably have about 2 quarts here. And as I'm looking at this, on the other show that we did with the 4-quart pot, I reduced some of the liquid by half. The liquid that, like you would see in here, that's been drained. But I don't think we're going to do this. I'm going to see how it gels up. It becomes almost like Jell-O. But when we go to the ice cube trays, we'll see. So to answer your question, Donna, apart from the meat, you throw out these vegetables.
What are
You discard them.
Are you going to
If
mash
you-
them though? Is my question.
Well, I'm mashing
Push
it right
down,
now. See,
yeah.
I'm pushing down.
Get the
And
juice
we're not
out.
going to hold the audience here forever. I'll do this and let this drain, and we'll come back when we're set up with the
Okay.
trays.
All right.
Okay. See you in a bit. I'm going to have a glass of wine. Okay, so if you, Donna, if you home in here, we had the vegetables a little while ago, almost up to here, and you can see
Vegetables
by
and the meat.
vegetables and the meat. The meat practically disintegrated. So what I was going to put on a pizza ain't there. Little
It's not gonna
shreds
go
are.
there.
It's kind of all blended.
Uh-huh.
So again, this was almost filled up to here. It drained naturally, and instead of using a pestle like from a mortar and pestle, or they sell some of the chinois, you know, with the pestle instrument. This works fine. Slotted spoon, press it down. And let's move over here. Donna, if you'll just focus in. Let's see what we got out of that, that 15, what was it, 15 and a half hours. We have Donna, you tell them.
Just about 1.5 quarts of brown sauce.
And where would a half a quart, but 1.5 would be up there? Okay.
Right there.
So it's a half a quart short, but let's come back to this. When I'm done with this, you can see there's some liquid in here. I have a little pressing to go. This will top off to 1.5 quarts, just about, maybe a little bit shy. But that's good enough. That is good enough for what I wanted to do. I'm very pleasantly surprised how everything worked out here. So, back to here again. When I took out the bones, remember we took the bones, I went back into the contents that were in the chinois, and I pulled out another bay leaf, found another guy, and little pieces of bone, so I got those out. Anything that would impede the liquid from, running through that fine mesh china cap chinois. Okay, so what I did was, or what I will be doing, is to pour this into the ice cube trays. But what I'd like you to see is that I took a ladle and I put just a little bit of the liquid into one ice cube tray. I'm going to be doing the rest later, but I went into the freezer to get some of the cubes from our first round, show one, if you will, on the putting together this first and second part show here, and I couldn't find it. I said, Donna, where's the other cubes? And she said, oh, I used it in a soup. So I don't have a base of a comparison, but I'm going to tell you. Huh?
My bad.
Your what?
My bad.
Your bad?
I was bad.
Oh, yeah. Well,
my fault.
Well, we all know that, But let me assure you that this is, I'm not going to exaggerate, this is slightly darker. So going from 8, almost double, 15.5 hours, from 8 hours to 15, it's slightly darker. So I guess if we went to the 18, then at 24, it would be a bit darker. But this is rich. I took the spoon, I maybe should have shown you this, put it in and it coats the spoon lightly. This is going to turn to almost a gel, so I want to get this in all the ice cube trays. And if we look over here at the top, you'll see a little bit where the fat had risen. And when it was cooking in the, over here, Donna, when it was cooking in this pot, I could have ladled out, spooned out some of that fat from the top. But it was so negligible. It was so I said, why bother? And if you think about what we're doing with this for Chateaubriand, think about the Chateaubriand. Think about your marbled meat. What do we have in there? What is the marbling? The marbling is fat. So I didn't concern myself with that. If that is a concern of yours, of course, just skim off the top when you're cooking it in here. It takes like a second. I could have gotten it out in like, 30 seconds, carefully spooning it out. So I think that about wraps it up. And I want to thank you all for watching. And go into part 1 for the whole ball wax, the whole enchilada, and see you soon. When we get into other trouble, we're going to be doing the other mother sauces. 4 others.
Oh boy. Okay, everybody. Thanks for watching again, and give us a like and share and comment if you care to. And check out Bob's video on cooking Chateaubriand. He just moved into the stove. It's the ticking. Bomb's going off. And using the reverse sear method for cooking his Chateaubriand on YouTube.
Take care, guys and gals.